Welcome. I'm glad you're joining us today for a tune-up ball class. I just got my hair cut. She always gives me a great cut, but I don't know if you're like this, but every time I get my hair cut, I just want to go "Ee," and start pulling it out a little bit. Um, but I am glad that you're here with us today. We're going to be working with two different size balls, the small twin set and the medium size. No big ball today. And a block and a strap. So if you don't have both of those sets, either one will do. So meet me on the mat and let's get started. We're going to talk about breathing today. You do it all the time and you're really good at it. So, and in fact, here's somebody else who's very good at breathing. Merlin. Welcome, Merle. So, when we talk about breathing, what we're thinking about is trying to use the breath to connect to the body and the mind so that the parasympathetic nervous system does not start to get wired up, so it interferes with our relaxation and being able to accept, thank you, the benefits of the rolling that we do. We're going to do a few different areas today. We're going to do hands and arms, and then we're going to go to the hips. And each time we work through it, I want you to think about your breath. So let's start by, you can lie down on the mat if you'd rather for the beginning here, or just stay in a comfortable upright seated posture. Just make sure that whatever pose you're in, it's not distracting to you, like you want to keep adjusting yourself. So take a nice deep breath and then just exhale it out. And just relax through your shoulders and close your eyes. And then feel the rhythm of your breath moving in and out. Just nice and easy. And then notice when you're trying to force a longer breath versus what's a natural lengthened breath that's easy to hold on to. Now we're going to grab our block and we're going to work with a small twin set inside the toe. And this is that little karate chopper, and we've done this several times, where you place the balls to the lateral side of where your wrist is, and then you're exerting any kind of pressure that you want and just rolling that outside area. For some folks, it's easier to do this like on a table or a desk. And certainly, if you've been working at your desk and maybe you do a lot of computer work, computer, um, anything like that, then this can be a nice break in the middle of the day. If you're having to, compose things or create things and you're at that keyboard for lengthened periods of time, boy, take a break, pop the balls up onto your desk, and then work your arms because the arms and hands will thank you for it. So we're just going to keep pushing along there. And remember the breath. Just keep taking some nice deep breaths, but nothing that you're struggling with. Okay. Now, usually we just rotate the hand facing down, but this time what we're going to do is we're actually going to take the arm face down, palm down rather, start at the wrist and roll right there. This always feels so good to me. I don't know if I've ever shared this story, but my mother, when I was a wee tot, to kind of help me go to sleep at night, I used to just have my arm rested out and she would turn my palm facing up and then just run her fingers really lightly along the inside of my forearm. And I have to tell you, I would be asleep in moments. And all through my life, I can remember when I was a kid growing up, going up and poking her on the shoulder and turning my arm up like that. And she'd run her little hands on there. And then I could tell that I was getting too old for it because at one point I went over, poked her, and brought my arm out, and she just kind of went like that. And then was kind of like, no, I'm busy. It was funny. And I went, all right, fine. And then release from there. And now palm up, top of the arm, and roll right there. Now, I like to do it in this sequence because typically if you do the top of the forearm first, it's going to feel really sore and that might make you flinch a little bit and that starts to interfere with your breath. We're not playing music, you probably noticed, but if you'd like, feel free to turn on some tunes if you'd like to listen to those while you're doing your tune-up ball rolling. Good. And then release from there, and now just holding it in your hand and making sure that your toe is cinched tight. Just roll it along the forearm. It's not going to feel as good as when my mom rubs her fingers on your forearm, but it's kind of a nice feeling. And then roll it right up to the elbow, and then fold the elbow just like that. Now squeeze it nice and tight. Good. And then release from there. Feels so good and relaxed already. So before we do the hands, let's switch it over to the other side. And remember, I'm gonna pop my watch off here. You're gonna like karate chop and then push it in. And if you want to add a little compression, you can place your hand on the arm to push into it. We haven't talked about application and usage of oils for a long time, but certainly when you use the oils, then it can change your senses. And what I mean by that is, say for instance lavender or the traditional oil. When we think of essential oils, usually I think lavender comes to the top of the list. And when you apply lavender, it's very calming. It helps you reduce anxiety. So for some, applying an oil can help you stay relaxed through the process of your ball rolling, which you want. Peppermint is a really good one too. It's both energizing and relaxing. So you could run the gamut of different oils until you found something, or maybe there's a blend that you really want to try out and utilize for that purpose. And then go ahead and lift and palm down. We're now compressing to roll on that forearm. And just working it from there. Good. And the other things with oils is there are different oils and blends that can help relax muscles. So for instance, like I always work with doTERRA oils. The deep blue, either in the oil, they also have like a lotion rub and things, or a touch where you can roll it on. That can really release muscle tension. It just relaxes the muscles. So it'd be interesting to apply a favorite, maybe muscle relaxing oil before you do your ball rolling and see how that feels, especially if you've got an area that's particularly tight. Then release, and now it's palm up, wrist here, and roll. I can tell this is really doing a good job of relaxing me. Ah. The new message for the website, lesliedenny.com, is up. So it's always towards the beginning of the month, and John is doing some traveling, so he popped it up for me before he left, and I'm really grateful for it. So if you get a chance, check it out. It's a nice message for this month. And then release from there and pop it. You're just going to roll it on the forearm nice and light. And then pop it right at the crook of your arm and fold. Take some deep breaths. Good. And then release from there. Oh boy, it already feels so relaxed. So the next thing that we're going to do is take out one of these little classic size tune-up balls. It's my favorite set to work with. In fact, John, I noticed that he grabbed his set and popped it in his little carry-on so he'd have that in case he got a little tense on the flight. So what we're going to do is we're going to first hold the ball and squeeze. And then relax your fingers and squeeze again. So you're just giving it a fairly even pressure as you squeeze and then lighten the tension. This is great also for grip. You may not have thought about that, but we should kind of try to keep a strong grip. And I know that, as I get older, when I go to open up the jar, that I need to start whacking on the edge of the counter or tap it with a knife to try to loosen the top, I remember that my grip is getting weaker. The muscles that are charged with that are getting weaker. So I'll get up my tune-up ball, the classic size, and just squeeze and then back off and just keep squeezing and back off and try to lengthen the amount of time that I'm squeezing it. You don't want to go into stress overload, but with a regular action of doing this, you'll notice that your muscles there start to get stronger and your grip will get stronger too. There's nothing like having a good grip. Good. Just a couple more times. And you may notice if you don't do this very often, a little bit of fatigue tomorrow. So we're going to hit the relaxation trail. Pop it right on the block and roll vigorously. And you can roll towards the wrist joint at the heel of your hand. You can go towards the base of the thumb and then just start rolling it around the whole palm of your hand, really. And make it pretty vigorous so that you're really increasing the blood flow into that area. Good. Okay. Now, what I want you to do is first go to the space between your small finger and the ring finger, and you can't pass it between your fingers unless you've got just like amazing finger spread. But what I want you to do is widen the two fingers as wide apart as you can, and that ball is pressing between them. And you're just going to roll forward and back in that little spot. Not too vigorously, just enough. And then move it to the space between the middle finger and the ring finger. Same spot. Take the fingers as wide apart as you can and roll. Now, for me, you might have heard that. Um, I've got a little tension in that spot, I can tell. So I probably need this. It could be some arthritis. I mean, come on, it happens. And then roll that ball between the index finger and the middle finger, same spot, and just carefully roll it right there. I'm not rolling it out to the length of the finger because I don't want to do that. You can bend the finger back and it can get uncomfortable. So I'm just really massaging right into that space between the index and middle finger. Good. Now we're going to move between the index finger and the thumb into that U space. Now you have a lot more space right there. So just go ahead and massage. And then we're going to work to that space at the bottom of the thumb in that joint. And then go ahead and roll it right to the base of that thumb and massage it right there. Good. Now, go ahead and grab the ball, squeeze, and then release. And notice if you have a little bit more strength. Sometimes in order to access a little more strength, we have to let go of the binding tension that's not allowing the muscles to work the way they want to. Good. And then just massage nice and briskly right there. A circular motion. Good. And then release it. And I know that when I grip or ball up my fist, the fist that I just worked feels like it has so much more range of motion versus this one feels tighter, like it doesn't open up quite as much. Yeah, in fact, yeah, look at it. All right, let's switch it to the other side. Just a nice little circular massage here. And this is another good one to do if you're seated at your desk or the kitchen table, a counter. Um, but what I think about is when you're working on a keyboard, there's this tendency to keep the hands like so. I mean, I know that we don't have the same type of keyboard that I had when I was actually first starting out between high school and which was the really hard manual typewriter and then working with that as I started getting jobs and then getting my first electric, I thought, wow, this is like really easy to strike. But it was still a lot of finger muscle. Well, now we don't use as much finger muscle anymore. Those little keyboards, you could just barely tap it and all of a sudden you got 5 commas in a row. So you want to work the muscles but loosen up the tension in your hand because you've got that little claw kind of shape to your fingers when you're typing. And lest we not forget the texting thumbs. Or if you're like me, the texting digit. Ding, 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 ding. Good. Now, spreading those fingers nice and wide apart, go to that space between the small finger and the ring finger and just massage right there, back and forth. Tiny range of motion, not very far at all. Yeah, texting eludes me. I think I just got too old. I still practice to try to make it look like I can do it like other people, where they just hold it and just hammer with their thumbs and rip off a little message. But for me, I'll try that and then I'm riddled with mistakes. So I have to go back and then go back to dink, 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 and then roll it over between the ring finger and the middle finger. One of these days I want to aspire to be a great texter. It could happen. And then roll it between the middle finger and the index finger. And then bring it to the space between the index finger and the thumb and massage and roll right there. Good. Now move the ball down to the base of the thumb and just massage right there. That's usually the hot spot for me. I have a lot of repetitive stress in those areas, so I just have to kind of work that a little bit. We didn't exercise our opposite hand. And then just roll right there. Now grab the ball and squeeze and release, squeeze and release. Now you can do this with both hands, holding a ball, just working it, but we're just doing one arm at a time. Good. I've got a very weak hand over here. This hand is like super weak. Good. But I feel it's getting stronger. Keep squeezing, backing off, squeeze, back off, squeeze, back off. All right, check it out. Just see how everything feels when you relax into that seated posture. Take a couple of breaths here, and then we're going to change gears, moving to your hips today. So it's a little bit of a difference, but it's something that's kind of nice to switch gears and go from one place to the other. So keep your block close. And this time, we're going to start using the medium-sized set balls. And again, if you don't have the medium-sized set, don't worry about it. Just use what you have. And really, you could get away with just one size set for all of this, for sure. So we're going to take out the two medium-sized set balls. Just like that. And then we're going to roll down to the mat. And the first thing that we're going to do is place a ball square in the center of each one of your buttocks. And I like to initially use the block for the back of my head. We're going to be changing how we do this in just a moment. But from here, all I'm going to do is pick up my left foot, knee is bent, circle it around a few times. Deep breaths. And then release that foot down, lifting the opposite foot and circle this one around. Good. Then move the balls a little farther out. So they kind of feel like they're pinching into the outer portion of your hip. Then lifting that left foot, knee is bent, circle it around. And it's going to feel like you're working more into that outer glute muscle. And then drop the foot down, lifting the opposite foot, your right foot. Keep that knee bent, just circle it around. Okay. Now, bring them a little closer in. You don't want to be sitting to the spine, but you do want to draw them a little bit closer in. And then from here, lift up both feet and just kind of cross those heels and circle the knees around in one direction. I'm just folding my hands right here, but you could put your hands any place you like. And then circle it in the opposite direction. Good. Then release from there and just stretch out. Whew, that felt good. So now we're going to go at a little higher rate of intensity. I'm going to put my ball over here so it doesn't escape. Just wants to escape. Bad ball. Bad ball. Okay. And I'm going to lift the hips and place really like that buttock area that we were just at right onto the block. Then I'm going to lift even higher, place one ball to the right, to the left glute rather. And from here, once I feel like I've got it nice and settled, I'm going to lift that leg and keep the knee bent and circle it around. Now, if I did both of these balls, it would get a little slidey. You'd feel like you were slipping a little bit. But this, you can keep stabilized at that higher level, and it just creates a little deeper compression. As long as moving the legs around. We're going to add both of them in just a moment. And then release that foot down, then lift the hips and roll it over to the other side. Compress, lifting up that right leg, and with the knee bent, just circle it around. Good. Now, have both of your balls and place them on this higher level right into the glutes. Good. Then lifting up that left foot, just open that knee out to the side and kind of rock. And notice that I'm kind of pulling that knee up towards me, but I'm keeping it lateral out to the side. And it's creating this like little bit of an arcing motion, curving into the glute tissue, going across the fiber of the way the muscle runs. And then release it and switch it off to the other side. So bring that knee in, cock it out, and then just kind of rock your hips from right to left, and that will kind of arc that right ball so that it's cutting across the grain of your glute muscle. It's gluteus maximus. and then release from there. Go ahead and move the balls and the block out of the way, and then just relax on your back and take a few breaths. Get some water too if you need it. Good. Then bring yourself up to that upright seated posture. Do a little check-in to see how you're feeling because we're headed into the IT band. And with the medium-sized set ball, that can be a little intense. So if it gets a little intense, just back off and then go back in when you're ready. So I'm placing it at the top of my thigh, and I'm just going to work that leg up and down along the ball to really massage deep into that IT band on the outer thigh. Oof. I can tell that I need this work a little bit today. I was pretty exuberant through most of the day. But I noticed that with recovery, with using essential oils, the appropriate ones for me, and not every oil is for everybody, that I create a practice that is really more in the focus of recovery so that I feel better. And it's great. I just love this. Been doing it for years. Grateful to people that introduced me to it. Um, just really, really grateful because it has been something that has improved my ability to be able to do the things that I love from an active lifestyle perspective. Just keep working it. And then release and just roll it over to the other side. And taking that leg out to the side, just sweep. There's always the question that comes to me is like, if you could roll one thing, what would it be? And I always find that question kind of hard because our bodies are all so different, and what we do is different. How we handle stressors, physical stressors, is different. So it's always hard to say. So I guess what I would rather say is anything that you do, regardless of whether it's the hands or just working an IT band or your calves, that anything that you do is a good thing if you do it with a sense of regularity. And the more consistent you are with your ball rolling practice and the stretches that you do and whatnot, you'll start to realize the benefits in your body. It's just going to feel so much better. So I always recommend ball rolling. I think we don't communicate that enough. And especially in our fitness environments, the need for recovery and to allow your body to have these moments mean just as much as all the rest of the things that we do when we're working out. And I think that we all don't necessarily do a great job of communicating that. So just take care of yourself. That's really what it comes down to. Good. And then release from there. Okay, the next spot that we're going to work, and still with this medium-sized set ball, is we're going to go to the block and work the inner thigh, the adductor. So I always lie down on my side, and then I kick the top leg up onto the block, and then I'm just going to roll the ball moving horizontally again across the adductors from the way that they run, so that we're kind of teasing open that muscle fiber to massage into it. Not one of my most comfortable places to roll. I'll always be very honest about that because this always is like, but I can feel the benefits and keep modifying the intensity with which I'm rolling so it doesn't get too rough. And just take your deep breaths. and then release and switch it to the other side. That feels so good. We're going to be headed into some stretches here shortly, and that's where that strap's going to come in handy. So just use that opposite inner thigh and roll. Excellent. Just roll a little bit more right there. And then release. Okay. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to actually work the quads. So when you roll on to the side, I'm going to kick my balls to the side here. You roll over to the side. I'm going to rest my head on block because it just feels better for me to keep my neck neutral as opposed to dropping the head all the way down to the mat. And I'm just going to pick this top leg up and bring it back. Now, I'm not lifting it up because that can put compression or pressure on the knee. I'm just keeping it parallel with the opposite leg and pulling it straight back. Then go ahead and sweep that top leg forward and just drop the top shoulder back and move into that. Really, it's more of like a restorative twist. And take deep breaths. And then switch it to the other side. I'm going to flip over so I'm still facing you. And as I roll it to my opposite side, just stretch out, bring that top leg back for that quad stretch. Keeping it parallel to the opposite leg so we're not lifting it up. And noticing your breath, always bringing it back to your breath. And then sweep that leg forward, drop that top shoulder back into that long reclining twist. And then release from there. Go ahead and push yourself to an upright seated posture and then draw the legs into a wide V and hinge forward in that seated straddle. So we're really trying to lengthen through the spine. And if you're tight, remember holding a block in front of you can sometimes give you a little bit more support. And then from there, try to lengthen out through that flat back and reach out through your chest. And then when you release from there, go ahead and draw the legs together and bring that left heel to the hip and then move into that seated twist. Deep breathing into that midsection. And then release and switch it to the other side. And then release from there and just come into a comfortable seated posture. Close your eyes and just gently check in. Notice how your body feels. Notice how your hands feel. And then open your eyes. Today's practice was not just about incorporating breath, it was being mindful about essential oils of your choice, no matter what's the brand that you buy from, but selecting something that can complement your practice, either releasing muscular tension, maybe releasing anxiety by calming us down, and then doing a nice subtle massage throughout the forearms into the hands, and then exercising with that ball to try to strengthen up our grip, and doing that both sides, and then finishing with the hips for a really grounding experience. So I hope you enjoyed it. If you're going to be staying with us for the next class and you're live, we're going to be doing a 30-minute cycle class tonight, complementing and adding into our Cycle Express formats. Remember, we won't be doing 30-minute ball classes. We're just going to keep them status quo. But for some of these other formats, we're shortening them up so you have more choices at hand. I hope you enjoyed tonight's class. Check out my website for this month's message coming up for July. And for the rest of your time today, make it great. Thanks for coming.